In the Grand Academy of the Stars, the alien students gathered in their shining seats. The hall was wide, the walls made of smooth metal that glowed faint blue, and the ceiling so high it seemed to vanish into shadow. They were young, proud, and curious, each one dressed in the silver uniforms of their people. Their eyes were sharp, their voices filled with arrogance, and their laughter echoed like cold bells. Today, their attention had turned toward a single human student, sitting quietly at the edge of the room. The aliens whispered among themselves, not even trying to hide their voices. "Humans are soft," one said, his long fingers tapping on the table. "Their skin tears too easily." "They are weak," another added, leaning back in her chair. "They cannot survive on real deathworlds. Their planet is barely dangerous compared to the worlds we know." More laughter followed, rolling across the room like a wave. Some banged their hands on the table, others covered their faces with mock surprise, as if pretending to be shocked by human fragility. A tall alien with dark ridges across his head stood and raised his hand for silence. The room grew quiet, though the silence carried amusement, like the pause before another cruel joke. "Imagine this," the tall alien said loudly. "A human, walking alone on Xyrax 9, where the storms cut through armor and the soil itself is poison. How many minutes before he dies? 5. 10. The hall filled with laughter again, harder this time, louder, almost cruel. Their voices bounced against the walls, and their sharp teeth glimmered in the glowing light. They laughed not only at the thought of human weakness, but at the very idea that Earthlings could stand beside them as equals in the academy. In the corner, the human sat still. He did not laugh. He did not speak. His eyes were calm, his hands folded neatly on the desk before him. His hair caught the glow of the blue lights, and a faint smile curved across his lips, though it was not the smile of someone amused. It was the smile of someone waiting. The aliens noticed his silence and felt braver. "Look at him," one hissed. "He does not deny it. He knows it is true." "Yes," another said. "Humans know their place. Soft bodies, fragile bones, short lives. They should be grateful we let them study here." The laughter rose again, crueler this time, echoing with confidence. The human still did not move. His stillness was unsettling, like a hunter waiting for the right moment to strike. Far above, in the high gallery of the academy, the instructors watched quietly. They were older, wiser, and had seen such scenes before. They did not interfere, for sometimes truth was not taught by lectures, but by silence and revelation. The tall alien, still standing, leaned forward and pointed at the human. His voice carried across the hall, each word heavy with disdain. "Tell us, Earthchild. What can your people offer the galaxy? What have humans faced that compares to the storms of UL Kresh or the beasts of Draka? You are fragile. You are prey. You cannot survive what we survive." The hall was silent for a moment, all eyes turning toward the human now. The aliens expected him to bow his head, or to remain silent, or perhaps to mutter something about courage and spirit. They expected weakness, because weakness was all they saw when they looked at him. The human looked up slowly, meeting the alien's gaze without fear. His eyes were steady, and his smile widened just slightly. "You think humans are soft," he said, his voice calm and clear. "You think we are weak." Some aliens chuckled at his words. Others leaned forward, curious to hear his attempt at defense. The tall alien tilted his head, amused. "Yes," he said. "That is exactly what we think. Prove us wrong, human. Tell us why your kind deserves to sit among the children of the stars." The human's smile did not fade. He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest as though considering their words. Then, softly, almost casually, he spoke. "Have you ever heard of a shark?" The word was strange in the alien tongues. It rolled awkwardly across their lips, sharp and foreign. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some repeated it, trying to understand. Others frowned. "Shark," one whispered. "What is that?" "A weapon." "Some kind of machine," another guessed. The tall alien frowned deeply. "No. It sounds like nothing of importance." "What is it, human?" "Some small creature from your tame world." The human's smile deepened. His eyes glinted in the blue light, and for the first time, the room grew truly quiet. Even the instructors leaned forward, curious now. "It is only an animal," the human said softly. "From my planet." The silence that followed was heavy. An animal. The word should have ended the conversation, but the calmness in the human's voice, the steady look in his eyes, made the aliens hesitate. It was as if the simple word carried weight, a hidden truth they had not yet seen. The human leaned forward slightly, his voice still calm, almost conversational, but with a quiet intensity that pulled at every ear in the hall. "You laugh at humans because you think our world is gentle. But you know nothing of Earth. You think we are weak, but you do not know what has hunted us since the beginning of time. You speak of storms, of poisoned soil, of wild beasts. But you have never stood in the dark water of an ocean and known that something ancient is circling you, something that has been perfect for hundreds of millions of years, something that kills without mercy and never stops moving." The aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The human's voice painted the image in their minds, and though they had never seen a shark, the idea of it stirred unease. The silence grew deeper, the earlier laughter now gone, replaced with an undercurrent of tension. The human sat back again, his eyes calm, his smile faint, as if he had said nothing unusual. But the air in the hall had changed. The aliens felt it, though they did not yet understand why. The instructors in the gallery exchanged knowing looks. They had seen this before. They knew what would come next. And down in the hall, among the alien students, a seed of fear had been planted. The laughter had ended. The silence had begun. And none of them, not one, had any idea what truth was waiting to be revealed. The laughter in the hall faded slowly, leaving only the hum of the glowing lights along the walls. The alien students still stared at the human, their faces carrying a mix of curiosity and arrogance. They did not yet understand what he meant, and that ignorance made them bold. One alien, with ridges running down his long neck, leaned forward and hissed. "You speak of this shark as if it is something great. But you say it is only an animal. How can an animal prove humans strong?" The others chuckled again, though the sound was weaker now, less confident. Their eyes followed the human carefully, and though their mouths sneered, their bodies sat straighter, uneasy with a fear they could not name. The human did not answer at once. He leaned back, folding his arms, his gaze moving across the room slowly, meeting alien eyes one by one. There was no rush in his movements, no panic in his silence. He carried himself with the calm of someone who knew he was in control of the story. Finally, he leaned forward again, resting his hands lightly on the table. His voice was soft, even, but it carried to every corner of the hall. "A shark is not a weapon. A shark is not a machine. It is life, raw and sharp. It is older than your civilizations, older than your people, older even than the stars you boast about crossing. Before your kind took its first steps into the void, sharks ruled our oceans." A ripple of whispers broke through the students, their large eyes flicking between each other. Some frowned, others tilted their heads, confused but listening. The human continued, his voice steady. "Imagine a creature that never stops moving. A creature that does not sleep the way you know sleep. Its senses stretch far, so far it can taste blood in water from kilometers away. It swims in silence, unseen until it chooses to strike. And when it strikes, it is too late. The prey is already gone." One alien shifted uncomfortably in his seat, claws tapping against the desk. Another laughed nervously. "It sounds like a predator, yes, but all worlds have predators. Why should this one matter?" The human's smile returned, faint but dangerous. "Because our predators do not live on distant deathworlds where only the reckless wander. They live with us, around us, among us. They live in our seas where our people fish, where our children swim. We grow up knowing that the water hides something faster, sharper, older, and hungrier than us. And still, we swim. Still, we fish. Still, we sail. We do not hide from danger. We live with it, side by side." The hall grew quieter still. The aliens leaned forward, their expressions caught between disbelief and unease. Some shook their heads slowly, as if trying to dismiss the weight of his words, but the images were already in their minds, vast oceans filled with silent hunters moving just beyond sight. The tall alien who had mocked the human earlier narrowed his eyes. "You expect us to be afraid of fish?" His voice carried bravado, but it wavered slightly at the end. The human's gaze snapped to him, calm and sharp. A fish. No. A shark is no simple fish. It is a blade of flesh, a machine of muscle and teeth, perfected by millions of years of survival. And when you are in the water, it is not you who decides if you will live. It is the shark. The silence that followed was heavy, thicker than before. The humans' words sank into them, pulling their thoughts into deep, dark oceans they had never known. They were creatures of stars and machines, raised on planets with rules they understood. But the picture of Earth's oceans, filled with something ancient and relentless, unsettled them in a way they had not expected. The human leaned back again, his face calm, almost amused at their discomfort. He had not raised his voice, had not shouted or demanded respect. He had simply spoken the truth of his world, and it was enough to shift the mood of the entire room. One alien student whispered, almost too softly to hear, "How large are they?" The human's smile widened just slightly. Some small, the size of your arm. Others, longer than your shuttles. Great shadows beneath the waves, moving faster than you can swim, faster than you can flee. The whisper spread through the room like a chill wind. The aliens looked at each other uneasily, some pressing their hands together, others flicking their tongues nervously. The tall alien tried to laugh, but the sound was thin, forced. "It does not matter," he said quickly. "They are in your oceans. They cannot reach the stars. They are trapped on your planet." The human tilted his head, his eyes narrowing with that same unsettling calm. "And yet we grew beside them. We learned to fish, to sail, to dive, while predators circled us. We built cities beside the seas knowing what lurked below. If you think that makes us soft, then perhaps you have never understood what survival means." The hall went silent again. Not the silence of arrogance or mockery, but the silence of minds unsettled, of laughter turned into thought. The students shifted in their seats, and none of them laughed now. Up in the gallery, the instructors watched with careful eyes. They did not smile, but there was a glimmer of understanding among them. The lesson had begun, though no lecture had been given. The human folded his hands once more and leaned back in his chair. His voice, when it came again, was almost casual, but beneath it lay a weight none of them could ignore. "And remember," he said softly, "the shark is only one predator of Earth. Only one." The words hung in the air like a shadow, heavy and sharp. None of the aliens spoke. None of them laughed. They sat frozen in their seats, wondering what other creatures waited in the darkness of the human world, and why the human smiled as if danger itself was his oldest friend. The human's words still echoed in the air, heavy and sharp, and the silence that followed was thicker than before. None of the alien students dared to speak, though many wanted to. They shifted in their chairs, their long fingers fidgeting against the tables, their eyes flicking nervously between each other as though searching for courage. The human sat calmly among them, his expression unreadable, his presence suddenly larger than it had been only minutes before. He had not raised his voice, had not shown his teeth, had not threatened them, and yet the weight of his words was heavier than any weapon. Finally, one alien broke the silence. His voice was hesitant, careful. "Describe it," he said. "Describe this, shark." Every head turned toward the human again. He let the request hang in the air for a moment, as if considering whether they were ready for the truth. Then, slowly, he leaned forward, his eyes fixed on no one and everyone at once, and began to speak. "It is shaped for one purpose," he said quietly. "Hunting. Its body is long and strong, built to cut through the water faster than almost anything else alive. Its skin is rough, sharper than sand, covered in tiny blades you cannot see but can feel if you dare to touch it. Its eyes are black, unblinking, made to see even in the dark. And its mouth." He paused, letting the moment stretch, watching the unease ripple through the crowd. Then he continued, his voice soft but deliberate. "Its mouth is filled with rows of teeth. Not just one row, not 2 rows, but many. Each tooth sharp as a blade, and when one falls out, another grows in its place. They are endless. A shark never loses its teeth. It always has more." The aliens shifted again, some pulling their hands back from the table as though they could feel the rows of teeth snapping in the shadows of their minds. One whispered something too soft to hear, and another gave a low hiss of discomfort. The human went on, his tone steady, almost calm, but every word carried a weight that pressed deeper into their imaginations. When it hunts, you do not hear it. The water does not warn you. You may be swimming, laughing, thinking you are safe, and then you see a shadow, just for a moment. The water darkens. Something brushes past you. And then, if you are lucky, it only circles. If you are not lucky, you never see it again. One alien student let out a small sound, half a gasp, half a laugh, though there was no humor in it. Circles, he asked quickly. What do you mean? The human's gaze moved to him, calm, piercing. A shark does not rush. It waits. It studies you. It moves around you, over and over, tasting the water, smelling the air, deciding if you are prey worth taking. And when it decides, it comes like a blade through the sea, faster than you can move, faster than you can even think. One moment you are whole. The next, you are not. The hall grew colder. The aliens sat stiff in their seats now, no longer mocking, no longer smirking. Their large eyes were wide, their ridged faces pale with unease. They imagined themselves in those dark waters, imagined the endless circling, imagined the sudden strike. And though none of them had ever seen an ocean, they felt the fear of it as if they were already there. The tall alien who had mocked the human earlier tried to hold on to his pride. He leaned forward, his voice sharp though thinner now. But surely your people kill them. Surely you destroy these creatures when they come too close. The human's eyes met his, steady, calm, and the faintest smile touched his lips. Sometimes we kill them. Sometimes they kill us. But they are never gone. They are always there, waiting in the water. They are older than trees, older than mountains, older than your kind and mine. They have survived every disaster that has ended others. Fire, ice, time, none of it has touched them. They do not need to change. They are already perfect. The alien's mouth closed, his voice trapped in his throat. He leaned back slowly, unable to hold the human's gaze for long. The room grew heavier with silence, and even the instructors above shifted slightly, as if moved by the words. The human leaned back as well, folding his arms across his chest, his eyes sweeping the hall. On Earth, we learn to live with them. To swim knowing they are there. To sail knowing they follow. To dive knowing the water is theirs, not ours. We are not masters of the ocean. We are only visitors. And still we go. The weight of those words pressed deeper than the aliens expected. They had grown up in a galaxy where their species claimed mastery of their worlds, where danger was conquered or avoided, where control was everything. The idea of living beside something that could not be tamed, could not be removed, unsettled them deeply. One alien spoke softly, almost a whisper. How many have they killed? The human smile did not fade. Enough. But not enough to stop us from going back. We face them, again and again, because that is our world. That is who we are. The whisper spread again, soft and uneasy. The alien students were no longer laughing, no longer sneering. They were listening, truly listening, and fear mixed with respect in their eyes. The human let the silence grow, let their thoughts circle like the very predators he described. Then he spoke once more, his voice low, almost a murmur. And remember, sharks are only one danger. The oceans hold others. The forests hold more. The skies hold their hunters too. Earth does not forgive the soft. It does not allow the weak. If we were truly what you think we are, we would not exist. The words cut through the hall like a blade. None of the aliens moved, none of them spoke. They sat frozen, their laughter now a memory, their arrogance dissolved into something else entirely. They had wanted to see weakness in the human. Instead, they saw survival. They saw something they did not understand, and that made them afraid. The human sat quietly, his calm smile still resting on his lips, as though he had said nothing unusual. But in the silence, every alien knew the truth. Their world was dangerous, yes. Their species was strong, yes. But humans had grown strong not because their world was easy, but because it was filled with predators that never stopped hunting. And the word shark would never leave their minds again. The silence stretched across the academy hall like a shadow. No one laughed now, and no one dared mock the human again. The word shark lingered in their minds, sharp and unsettling. For the first time since the lesson began, The aliens looked less like proud children of the stars and more like uncertain students caught between fear and curiosity. They shifted in their chairs, their long fingers curling, their eyes wide and restless. At last, one of them, a younger alien with pale skin and small ridges along her head, raised her voice softly. "How large are they, these sharks?" The human turned his gaze toward her, calm and steady. He did not rush his answer. He let the question sit in the air until the tension grew tighter, then spoke in the same low, deliberate tone. "Some are small. They can fit in your arms. Quick, fast, dangerous, but not too large. Others," he paused, and a faint smile tugged at his lips. "Others grow longer than your shuttles. Their bodies are thick with muscle, their jaws wide enough to swallow you whole. They are shadows beneath the sea, moving silently, faster than you can swim." Gasps filled the room. The younger alien lowered her gaze, her ridges trembling slightly. Another student, his voice sharp with disbelief, tried to push the fear away. "That cannot be true. No creature grows so large. No predator could be that fast, that strong." The human's smile did not fade. His eyes caught the light, calm and steady. "Do you think I would lie? Sharks do not care if you believe in them. They do not need your fear to exist. They are real. And they are always hungry." The words pressed into the air like weight. Several aliens lowered their eyes, unable to hold the human's gaze. The tall alien who had mocked him at the start shifted uncomfortably, his hands clenching and unclenching on the desk. His pride had no defense against the image the human painted. The human leaned forward then, his elbows resting lightly on the table, his voice soft but stronger now, carrying across the silent hall. "Do you know how we measure them? Not by length. Not by size. We measure them by what they have survived. They have lived through ages when the seas boiled, through winters when ice covered the world, through storms and disasters that wiped out thousands of other species. Yet they remained. They never needed to change. They are already perfect." The words sank deeper, heavy as stone. The alien students had been raised to think their own species strong because they had mastered their planets, because they had built walls and weapons, because they had conquered storms and beasts. But here was a creature that needed none of that. A creature that survived simply because it had always been stronger, faster, hungrier, patient. A creature that had faced time itself and endured. One alien whispered, barely audible, "How do you fight something like that?" The human's gaze turned toward him, steady and sharp. "You don't," he said. "You survive. You learn to read the water, to see the signs, to know when danger is near. You learn respect, because disrespect means death. Sometimes we fight, yes. But sometimes, the sea takes what it wants. We do not rule the ocean. We live by its mercy." The room fell deeper into silence. The aliens were no longer sitting with pride, no longer leaning back with arrogance. They were leaning forward, caught in the human's words, their imaginations drowning in dark water filled with ancient hunters. The tall alien tried again, his voice harsh, though his eyes betrayed his unease. "But even if this is true, it is only your oceans. We live among storms that split mountains, among creatures that spit fire, among worlds where every step is poison. Your sea monsters do not make you equal to us." The human tilted his head slightly, his calm smile sharpening. "And yet here I am, breathing the same air as you, walking the same halls, sitting in the same academy. My people did not need to live on your worlds. We survived our own. You call it weak, but it has made us stronger than you can imagine." The tall alien's mouth opened, then closed. His pride wanted to argue, but the words would not come. The fear of the shark, the image of the predator circling, was still lodged in his mind. The human leaned back again, folding his arms across his chest. His voice lowered, quiet but carrying to every ear. "Do you want to know the truth? Sharks are not even the greatest predator of Earth. They are only one of many. They are powerful, yes. Fearsome, yes. But they are not the worst. Not by far." A collective shiver passed through the aliens. Their eyes widened, their breathing quickened. If these sharks, with their endless teeth and patient hunting, were not the greatest threat of Earth, then what else could there be? What kind of planet bred such things, and how could humans live among them? The younger alien whispered again, her voice trembling. If sharks are not the worst, then what is? The human did not answer at once. He let the question hang, let their fear twist tighter. Then, softly, he said, Earth is not safe. It never has been. In our forests, there are hunters who wait in silence, their claws sharper than any blade. In our skies, there are talons and beaks that strike from above, faster than sight. Even on the land, beneath the soil, there are things that bite and sting and poison. The ocean is only one part of the truth. On Earth, danger is everywhere. It surrounds us, shapes us, teaches us. And that is why we are what we are. The aliens shifted again, some pressing their hands to their tables, others gripping the edges of their chairs. The weight of his words pressed harder than gravity itself. They looked at the human not as prey, not as weak, but as something else entirely, something that had grown strong not in spite of danger, but because of it. The human let his gaze move across the room, his faint smile steady. You laugh because you think survival is easy for us. But survival on Earth is never easy. It is never given. It is earned. Every day. Every breath. And those who cannot earn it are gone. The silence that followed was not only silence. It was fear. It was respect. It was the dawning realization that the human was not sitting in their academy as an equal by chance. He was there because his kind had learned to live on a planet that sounded, to them, more like a nightmare than a home. The word shark still lingered in their minds, but now it was joined by a greater question: what else waited in the shadows of Earth? And none of them could shake the thought that perhaps the most dangerous creature from that world was not the shark at all, but the human sitting quietly before them, smiling as if danger itself was an old friend. The hall felt colder than before, though no door had opened and no breeze moved through the air. The alien students sat stiff, their sharp faces pale, their eyes fixed on the human who had spoken of monsters as though they were no more unusual than trees or rivers. None of them laughed anymore. The word shark hung in their minds, heavy and sharp, but the words that followed it pressed even deeper, not the worst. For the first time, the young aliens began to understand that their mockery had been foolish. They had called the human soft, fragile, weak, but if his world was as he described, then surviving it was no weakness. It was something else. Something they had not been ready to face. One alien with skin like polished stone broke the silence. His voice trembled despite his effort to sound calm. If sharks are not the worst, then what is? The human leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on the desk, his gaze steady and calm. He let the silence stretch a little longer, watching their unease grow. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "Us." The word struck like a blade. The aliens froze, their ridged heads turning toward him in disbelief. A low hiss rippled across the hall as if they had all drawn breath at once. The tall alien who had mocked him earlier stood quickly, his voice sharp with forced confidence. "You cannot mean that. You humans are prey. If your world is filled with hunters, then you are nothing compared to them." The human's faint smile returned. His voice stayed soft, but there was steel beneath it now. "Do you think prey survives for long on a deathworld? Do you think prey builds cities beside oceans filled with sharks? Do you think prey walks into forests where claws wait in shadows, or sails skies where talons strike from above? No. Prey hides. Prey runs. We do not." The words echoed in the silence, sinking deep. Another alien, younger, almost whispered, "Then what are you?" The human's eyes glinted in the blue light of the academy. His answer came slow, deliberate. "We are what happens when prey fights back. We are what happens when survival never ends. We learned from our hunters. Patience. Endurance. Relentlessness. We became like them. We are not prey. Not anymore." The hall grew stiller than before. None of the aliens spoke. None even moved. The thought was too heavy to dismiss, too sharp to mock. They looked at him, truly looked, and saw not fragility but something hidden, something waiting beneath the calm. The human leaned back again, folding his arms, his voice calm but colder now. "You fear the shark because of its teeth. You fear the beasts of your worlds because of their claws. But you should fear us, because we carry something no predator carries, imagination. We can become more than what hunts us. We can think like them, plan like them, and when the time comes, we can strike harder than them." The aliens swallowed hard, their sharp throats moving in unison. The tall alien who had mocked him sank slowly back into his seat, his eyes lowered now. His pride was gone, swallowed by something he could not fight. From the gallery above, the instructors watched in silence. Their eyes, old and wise, betrayed no shock, but there was a quiet respect there. They had seen many species argue, boast, claim strength. Rarely did they see one speak of survival in such a way. One alien tried again, his voice shaking. "But if Earth is so full of death, if danger is everywhere, why do you stay? Why not leave it behind? Why not escape?" The human's smile faded, but his gaze grew sharper. "Because leaving would not change us. We are born of Earth. We are shaped by it. It is in us, the danger, the fight, the will to endure. You could take a human from Earth, but you cannot take Earth from a human." The hall went quiet again, the silence deeper than before. Some of the aliens lowered their eyes, no longer able to meet his. Others stared at him as though seeing him for the first time. Their earlier mockery seemed distant, childish, meaningless. The human let the silence linger before he spoke again, softer now. "You thought us weak because we do not boast of our strength. You thought us fragile because our skin tears, our bones break. But strength is not measured in armor or claws. Strength is surviving when everything wants you dead. And that is what we are." The aliens did not laugh. They did not whisper. They sat in heavy silence, their minds spinning with shadows of oceans, forests, skies filled with hunters, and the realization that the human sitting among them came from all of it, survived all of it, and carried that survival in his very being. For the first time, they looked at him not as prey, not as a curiosity, but as something else. Something dangerous. The human leaned back, his calm smile returning at last. His eyes moved across the hall, meeting each alien gaze one by one. "And remember," he said quietly, "sharks are only the beginning." The words settled into them like a weight they could not lift. None of them would forget. The academy hall felt smaller now, as though the walls had drawn in closer around them. The air was still, heavy with a weight the alien students had never known before. Their laughter from earlier seemed like a distant echo, something childish and foolish compared to the silence that now held them all captive. The human had spoken simply, using no grand words, no complicated phrases. Yet his words struck sharper than any weapon. Sharks were no longer just sea creatures to them, they were symbols, reminders of an entire world built on danger. But the most terrifying truth was not the shark. It was the human himself. One alien shifted uneasily, his long hands gripping the edge of the desk. His voice cracked as he spoke. "If all this is true, then how many more predators live on your world?" The human's gaze turned to him, calm and steady. "More than I can count. Some you can see. Some you cannot. Some strike with teeth and claws, others with venom and silence. On Earth, danger comes in many forms. You never truly escape it. You only learn to live with it." A shiver passed through the room. The aliens, who had once sat tall and proud, now hunched slightly, as though trying to shield themselves from invisible shadows. They had been raised to believe their own homeworlds were trials of strength. They had been told their storms, their beasts, their challenges were marks of greatness. Yet none of it compared to the way the human described his world. The younger alien with pale ridges on her head spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "But you left your world. You travel the stars now. You no longer need to face these dangers." The human studied her for a moment, then shook his head slowly. "You are wrong. We never truly leave it behind. Every world we touch, every sky we cross, we carry Earth with us. We are the children of a death world. It has carved us, shaped us, left its mark on our blood and our minds. Even among the stars, we are still what Earth made us." The words sank into them like stones sinking into deep water. None of the aliens could argue. They felt, for the first time, as though they were sitting not in a safe academy but in the shadow of something far larger, far older, and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The tall alien, the one who had mocked him first, tried to gather his courage. His voice was steadier this time, though his eyes betrayed his unease. If humans carry this Deathworld spirit with them, then what happens when you spread across the galaxy? What happens when your kind grows beyond your single world? The human's expression did not change. His eyes were calm, his voice soft, almost gentle, but it carried more weight than ever before. Then the galaxy will learn what Earth already knows: survival is not given. It is earned. A quiet gasp rippled through the hall. The alien students looked at one another, their wide eyes reflecting both fear and realization. They had thought themselves advanced, powerful, the natural heirs of the stars. Yet here sat a human unshaken, shaped by a world that seemed more dangerous than any of theirs, carrying within him a truth they could not deny. The young alien whispered again, her voice trembling. "And if the galaxy tries to stop you?" The human's faint smile returned. It was not mocking, not cruel, just steady, certain, the kind of smile that belonged to someone who had already faced too much to ever doubt. "Then the galaxy will learn the same way the oceans learned. The same way the forests and skies of Earth learned. We endure. We adapt. And when we must, we fight." The silence that followed was heavier than any before. None of the aliens dared speak. None dared laugh. Their earlier pride felt foolish now, their arrogance shattered. They had not only underestimated the human, they had misunderstood entirely what it meant to come from Earth. The human leaned back in his chair, his eyes moving slowly across the room, meeting every gaze one by one. There was no anger in him, no need to shout or boast. His calm presence was enough. His words had done what no threat could have done. They had planted fear, respect, and something deeper, the unsettling realization that humans were not to be measured by the softness of their skin or the fragility of their bones, but by the world that had shaped them into what they were. The lesson was no longer about a shark. It was about survival. About what it meant to grow strong in a place where everything tried to kill you, and how that strength could not be undone, not even by the stars themselves. The alien students sat frozen, each one lost in thought, their imaginations filled with images of endless oceans, dark forests, skies filled with hunters, and humans walking among them without fear. None of them would ever see humans the same way again. And deep in their minds, one question burned brighter than all others: if this is what humans are now, what will they become tomorrow? The silence inside the Grand Academy Hall had grown so deep that even the faint hum of the walls seemed distant. The alien students sat rigid in their seats, their gazes fixed on the human who had spoken of Earth with words that carved into their minds sharper than any blade. Their laughter, their pride, their mockery, all of it was gone, swallowed whole by the images of oceans filled with shadows, forests crawling with silent killers, skies where talons reigned, and the unsettling truth that the most dangerous creature of all was sitting quietly in front of them. The human rose from his seat. He moved with calm steps, unhurried, his hands behind his back. His presence alone was enough to hold the room, as though every eye was bound to him, every ear desperate for whatever final words he might give. He paused in the center of the hall, his gaze sweeping across the alien faces. "You came here today to mock me," he said softly. His voice was calm, steady, yet it carried to every corner of the room. "You called humans soft. You called us weak. You told yourselves we could not survive a death world." He let the silence linger, watching as several of the aliens lowered their eyes, ashamed. Then he continued. "You were wrong. Earth is not a world you could endure. It is not a world you could walk freely upon. It has shaped us in ways you cannot yet understand. It has given us strength not of body alone, but of mind, of spirit, of will. You saw only our skin, our bones. You never saw the fire beneath them." He stopped again, letting his words sink into them. None of the aliens dared interrupt. The human's gaze sharpened, though his voice never rose. "We are not prey. We are not fragile. We are survivors. We are predators. We are the children of a world that tried every day to kill us, and failed." A shiver rippled through the hall. Some of the aliens' ridges trembled, others' fingers tapped nervously against their desks. The lesson had changed them. The arrogance they carried into the hall was gone, replaced by a quiet unease, a recognition of something far greater than they had expected. The human turned slowly, his steps carrying him toward the exit. But before he reached the door, he stopped and looked back over his shoulder. His voice lowered, almost a whisper, yet it seemed to strike each of them directly, as though the words were meant for their ears alone. Remember this, Earth never gives mercy. And neither do we. The door slid open with a hiss. The humans stepped through it without another glance, leaving the hall in silence. The aliens sat frozen in their seats long after he had gone. None of them spoke. None of them dared break the silence. The lesson was over, but its weight lingered heavier than any lecture they had ever heard. They no longer thought of humans as weak. They no longer thought of them as prey. They thought of them as something else, something born of a world that never forgave weakness, something forged in oceans of teeth and skies of claws, something that had endured the impossible and learned to fight back. The word shark still echoed in their minds, but now it was joined by another word, one far more dangerous, one that would follow them long after this day was gone. Human. And none of them would ever forget it.